and the Senate, you know, and that is coming off from what transpired, you know, with the order given by the president, you know, during the Benue headsman killings. But that essentially is what we're going to be discussing on the program this morning. And we have joining us on the program the National Publicity Secretary for Afenifere, Mr. Yinka Odumake. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, yes. Have you on the show.
All right, before we go into our talk this morning, let's take a package report on the same issue, and then we'll come back. We'll take a very quick break. We'll be back after this.
The Constitution that gave you right to carry gun, to make people to go and be arresting people, is the same Constitution that gave us that right to invite anybody. And even if it means today, if a policeman in Lagos slap a civilian, we have every right to call the IG and make us to explain to us what is the reason behind a policeman slapping somebody. We are talking about crisis that is happening in this country. Every day there are killings. Some killings are not even reported in this chamber. Some killings are not even reported today. And who are the main organizations that are supposed to safeguard lives and property? Is the police. The army is just complementing the efforts of the police. And today what we are mentioning everywhere is army, army, army. Today we should be able to know what is even the strength of the police, what is even the capacity, what is even the kind of training they're having. And if the leader of the police cannot honor this, that means he's not competent to hold that office.
He has no respect for this institution. That is now a fact. There's absolutely no way we can dress it. There's absolutely no way we can say, let us give him some more time. There's absolutely no way we can say that what he is doing is anything but an abuse of this institution, of the Federation of Nigeria, of himself, even in the eyes of the international community.
The Senate, in a closed session, deliberated on the non-appearance of the IGP. The Senate noted that this, in our view, is a gross disrespect to the institution and constituted authority. The Senate also noted that its earlier refusal to appear before the investigative committee was overruled by a competent court of jurisdiction just in April of this year. The Senate therefore viewed this persistent refusal as a great danger to our democracy. Therefore, the Senate resolved to declare the IGP as an enemy of democracy and not fit to hold any public office within and outside Nigeria. The leadership of the Senate was also mandated to look into the matter for further necessary action. Distinguished colleagues, is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session?
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us again. All right, also joining Mr. Yinka Odumake on the set this morning is a respected legal practitioner, Mr. Ahmed Abbas. Good morning, Mr. Abbas. Thank you for joining us on the program. All right, so we all saw the footage there, and of course, we all know that this has been ongoing for weeks, you know, and the IGP has been invited by the Senate for the third time, and he refused to go. And we also know what the president said about an order he gave to him to stay in Benue State, and he flouted that order, which a lot of people in so many quarters are describing as a direct affront, you know, and all of that. But then, how do you perceive the whole, this whole episode so far?
Well, thank you. For me, the first question we need to answer is, what's the purpose of the invitation by the Senate? Because the argument from the two schools of thoughts are that one, the Senate does not have the power to invite the IG or some group of persons, and the other school of thought says, yes, they have the power to invite. But my opinion is that it's a settled issue constitutionally. The question must be asked, why are you inviting the IG? Because the power inherent in the Senate's ability to summon people to appear before it is predicated clearly in the Constitution for what purpose they can invite.
There has to be a clear purpose.
It's well defined, settled, unambiguous, that the power to investigate or invite people, any person for investigation, is predicated. The purposes are well defined in the Constitution under Section 88. So you must ask the question, why are they inviting the IG? Until you can answer that question, you might not be able to say whether they have the power or they don't have the power.
Okay.
If they're inviting him for a Melaye case, or are they inviting him to come and throw light as to why there's so much insecurity? These are two different angles entirely. And like I said, until we can settle the issue as to what is the objective of the invitation, then you can locate whether the Senate is wrong in the invitation
Or not.
right.
Okay, but according to Sabi Abdullahi, he said the Senate had declared the IGP an enemy of democracy and unfit to hold office on Wednesday after he failed to appear before the lawmakers 3 times, saying that the lawmakers had invited him to appear before them over the killings in parts of the country and the alleged maltreatment of one of their colleagues, Senator Dino Melaye. So for you, you said that there must be a cogent reason for them to invite him over, and if the reasons are clear, then the
reasons are well stated in the Constitution, Section 88, says why they can invite him. As to the issue of Melaye, the maltreatment of one of the senators, it's not within the purview of why the Senate can invite the IG. It's outside their purview completely. If you read Section 88, it is stated clearly. Those are not the subject matter for which the Senate has the power to invite an IG.
So are we saying that his refusal not to appear before the Senate, can be explained away by the law?
That's why I said, please listen to me very well, clearly. If it is predicated on resolving the issue of Melaye's maltreatment, I'm not saying, look, we are all victims. Nigerians are victims sometimes of police excesses. Most Nigerians, if you go to your prison, if you go to, I'm saying this from a very serious point of responsibility as a legal practitioner. I can reel offhand the excesses of our security agents, and I have never hidden the fact that we need to refine our security apparatus, institutions, because some of them don't even have respect for human rights. I'm not talking about the drama that ensued in the way they treated the senator. I have high regard for them, but I'm simply saying if we are to go constitutionally, there are questions, there are issues that are outside the purview.
The purview of. Okay, let's bring Mr. Dumake into this discussion, sir. How do you perceive the stance of the IGP in all this, really?
Well, first of all, I want to admonish our lawyers not to be encouraging impunity under legal niceties. Because I recalled when the Senate rejected Magu, our lawyers started reading laws, the president doesn't have to present Magu in the first place, and the rest of them. The vice president echoed that kind of thought, and to date, Magu is there in spite of being rejected by the Senate. Look, if you want to have constitutional democracy, let's have it. If you want to go under military rule, let's go under military rule. When you have military rule, you have the executive, you have the judiciary. The only thing you have is parliament. The only difference between constitutional rule and military rule is the parliament. Now, the section 88 that the legal person talk about, it's clear that the Senate can summon any Nigerian.
Any?
Yes.
Regardless.
But under section 2,
status.
there was a question of, okay, under this, under that. But even in this situation, it was clear that it can summon anybody.
Okay.
Either if they are reviewing the existing laws, want to make a new law, but any Nigerian can be summoned.
So can I bot in
So
there?
to now say that, to bring down begin the impression that maybe the IGP is above the law, I don't want to buy into that. And for him to have shown the invitation thrice, is clearly obeying the body language of the presidency. There's no if and but about it.
Okay, but can I butt in here?
Yes.
According to Mr. Femi Falana,
Yes.
senior advocate of Nigeria, he
Yes.
was quoted saying that the Constitution explains that the president or the governor of a state cannot be summoned by the National Assembly. And he further went on to say that the National Assembly has no power to summon everybody.
Did he give you the constitution? The constitution
Yes, he
that
said
said they
in
cannot
section
summon the governors?
67.
They cannot summon the governors.
That's why you
President.
want to say something.
Yeah.
Let me see section. Like I said, section. It's look, rule of law. If you have ever been a victim of impunity, you see, sometimes if you don't understand the lawyer's practice, for me, I say it publicly, any day, anytime. I won't shy away from saying it the way it is. But rule of law is the bedrock of democracy. Doing things in accordance with the law. If the law says you don't have certain power, don't use morality to appropriate such power. Section 88 that we are saying does not empower the Senate to invite any Nigerian. It says persons or entity that are saddled with the responsibility to execute or administer a law or an intending law. Anybody saddled with the responsibility of disbursing or administering appropriations, monies appropriated by the National Assembly. It listed specifically the people that the Senate can invite under that section. It's not just anybody. It's persons and entities, organizations, ministries, and agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of executing, administering laws.
Disposing and all that.
Okay, but,
I don't-
but the son also
I'm coming.
said,
And the Constitution went further in section 88(2) to state that the power conferred on the National Assembly in section 88 subsection 1 is fundamentally for the following purposes only. It stated the reason.
okay, but
That
sir,
the reason must be for making of laws. That you want to make a law and you want to take stakeholders into consideration to cite their opinion,
Yeah.
to see where the shoe is pinching them so that you can make laws that will create enabling environment. That's number one. Number two, for purpose of correcting a defective law. When you have a law that is defective, you bring in stakeholders to have their input as to what is wrong with this law and how you can ameliorate. The third function, the third purpose for which the Senate can invite persons or agencies under section 88 is for purpose of exposing corruption, inefficiency in the laws that you have made or for monies appropriated.
okay, relating this
please,
to the
and
gender
but-
thing.
Hold on.
I want-
Let's hear
Yes.
him out. Go ahead.
Please, because our lawyers, they have a way, because they know that many people don't read the Constitution.
No, see, the Constitution is here. If you
Can-
want me to
yes,
bring it,
please.
please bring that Constitution here. I will not be. See, if you know me in person,
Yes.
you will know that I am. Look, I detest the corruption and the impunity going on in this country.
Okay.
I have always on every platform. You can act out there.
Yeah.
I'm on the side of the people. I'm on the side of Nigerians. I'm not a party person. So,
okay, that is a copy of the Constitution.
Constitution.
This is getting really heated. All right, while we look at the Constitution and try to look for that section, you know, that actually talks about the laws or the powers that the Senate has to invite or not to invite the IGP. Are we there?
Yes,
we are there.
Okay,
Yes.
so, all right, so let's clarify
Look
things
at
now.
Section 88, subsection 1 says,
Okay.
subject to the provisions of this Constitution, each House of the National Assembly shall have power by resolution published in its journal or in the official gazette of the government of the Federation to direct or cause to be directed an investigation into 1. Any matter or thing with respect to which it has power to make laws. 2. The conduct of affairs of any person.
Any person.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Any person, authority, ministry, or government department charged, or intended to be charged with the duty of or responsibility for executing or administering laws enacted by the National Assembly. Any person to be charged
Yes.
with the execution.
Does that
So
exclude
the IG.
the Inspector General of Police? Does that exclude the Inspector General of Police?
No,
It doesn't exclude.
it doesn't exclude him.
All right, so
It doesn't exclude
so
him.
can't we?
Please listen to my statement from inception.
Okay,
I said, for what purpose?
okay.
Listen. It listed out all the people that can be invited,
Okay.
including the IG.
Okay.
People disbursing or administering monies appropriated or to be appropriated by the National Assembly. Subsection 2 now says, the power conferred on the National Assembly under the provisions of this section are exercisable only for the purpose of enabling it to make laws with respect to any matter within its legislative competence and correct any defect in existing law, and also to expose corruption, inefficiency, or waste in the execution or administration of laws within its legislative competence.
All right.
Great.
Wait.
Now, what's corruption?
Wait.
Corruption is abuse of office. Is corruption.
See, I never said, listen, I never said the National Assembly or the Senate does not have the power to invite the IG. My
But
first
you are
statement
saying the purpose
the
for the
purpose
invitation.
is, see,
Must
you
be
can't
clear.
say when you give somebody a power.
While we're
Yes.
staying on that
Yes.
purpose, while
Yes.
we're staying on the reason
Yes.
for the 3 invitations he's gotten and not honored,
Yes.
is it wrong to have invited the police boss, let's put it that way, you know, on the state of insecurity in a state? Is that wrong?
That's why I told you the purpose.
Yes, it
What's
was
the purpose?
stated. That was the
Stated.
purpose.
Yes.
As well as the maltreatment.
So,
That's why you see. That's why you can't model these two things together.
Okay.
Look, you can. Look.
If
You lawyers, you are encouraging impunity.
No,
it's
no.
not. It's not. Look, in Yoruba language.
No.
No, wait. Let me.
Make your statement and
I
I'll
will
make mine. I will
yes.
give you all the room
Yes,
to make your
I will.
statement.
I will. In Yoruba language, it is said that it is the person who summons. It's not you, this person that someone that will determine why they summon me. Go there. If what they're asking you is answer your purview, you say it. But the first time you turn your back, second time, third time. I mean, it's impunity of the highest order. And our lawyers they're encouraging impunity by hiding under some
clauses.
And because they think
In the
and they think that
Society.
people will not read the constitution, so they just cite the law. Just say the law is not the law. It is what's there.
No, see, listen.
Abba.
Let me say this. We don't have to be emotional.
It's not emotional. I'm not emotional.
No.
It's
sometimes-
fundamental
let me
liberty.
tell you,
Look,
sometimes
you people,
we take-
you are destroying. You are destroying.
I
You
take
are
a very
aiding.
strong
You are
exception.
aiding.
No.
You are aiding.
No, on
You are
behalf
aiding
of
the
the entire-
subversion of our democracy.
I do not. I
You
will
lawyers
not-
are doing.
Can I say this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I will say with all sense of
Yes.
humility and great responsibility,
Yes.
we have lawyers
Yes.
that will aid and abet impunity, but
Okay.
I'm never one of them.
Okay.
The same way you have politicians that talk from two sides of their mouth.
Yes.
You know, you are a politician, so
I'm not a politician.
there are politicians that talk from two sides of their mouth. But that doesn't mean we do not also have politicians of integrity and credibility.
Yes.
That's correct.
We have all of them.
Yes.
So we must accommodate each other's alternative opinion.
Okay.
Do you understand me?
All right, gentlemen,
me-
I think I have to interrupt our discussion at this point. We're going to come back and
All right.
continue. All right, 0708-740-7508. That's the number you can send an SMS to interact with us on the show. Meanwhile, we're about to join our studios in Abuja. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll be back. Stay with us.
Constitution that gave you right to carry gun, to make people to go and be arresting people, is the same constitution that gave us that right to invite anybody. And even if it means today, if a policeman in Lagos slap a civilian, we have every right to call the ID and make us to explain to us what is the reason behind a policeman slapping somebody. We are talking about crisis that is happening in this country. Every day there are killings. Some killings are not even reported in this chamber. Some killings are not even reported today. And who are the main organizations that are supposed to safeguard lives and property? Is the police. The army is just complementing the efforts of the police. And today what we are mentioning everywhere is army, army, army. Today we should be able to know what is even the strength of the police, what is even the capacity, what is even the kind of training they're having. And if the leader of the police cannot honor this, that means he's not competent to hold that office.
He has no respect for this institution. That is now a fact. There's absolutely no way we can dress it. There's absolutely no way we can say, let us give him some more time. There's absolutely no way we can say that what he is doing is anything but an abuse of this institution, of the Federation of Nigeria, of himself, even in the eyes of the international community.
The Senate, in a closed session, deliberated on the non-appearance of the IGP. The Senate noted that this, in our view, is a gross disrespect to the institution and constituted authority. The Senate also noted that his earlier refusal to appear before the investigative committee was overruled by a competent court of jurisdiction just in April of this year. The Senate therefore viewed this persistent refusal as a great danger to our democracy. Therefore, the Senate resolved to declare the IGP as an enemy of democracy and not fit to hold any public office within and outside Nigeria. The leadership of the Senate was also mandated to look into the matter for further necessary action. Distinguished colleagues, is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session?
Welcome back. You're still watching Galaxy today on this lovely Monday morning. All right, we're taking the discussion to Abuja, and we have on standby another legal practitioner, Mr. Kasmil Igwe. Good morning, Mr. Igwe. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning. I'm sure you've been following our discussion from our studios here in Lagos, and of course, there's an ongoing debate on whether or not the IGP should have gone to the Senate to answer the call or not. All right, Barrister Abbas here in Lagos tried to show us in the Constitution how far, the lawmakers can go in terms of summoning the IGP and all of that. But you are also a legal practitioner. Whether or not the Constitution clearly states the powers the Senate has or how far they can go, do you think the action of the IGP so far in refusing to go before the Senate 3 times, do you think that is right in itself?
Thank you for having me and good morning. I want to start by responding to your question outrightly that the actions of the IGP so far, with due respect, is not right. And I also want to state that as a legal practitioner, I am a bit disturbed by the trend of events. The IGP a law or institution, the chief law enforcement officer of the nation, who ordinarily should work with the National Assembly or the legislature to ensure that people who behave in this manner are brought to book, is not the one who is grandstanding. I think is inimical to our democracy. And it's also a shameful thing that those who ought to know are now pretending not to know. I'm beginning to pinch myself, sure that I am still in this planet. You know, I still went through the law school where we were trained on the basic rules and principles of interpretation of the law. We all know that we have literary meanings, which you don't need to be a lawyer to even begin to attempt in interpreting it. The letters of the Constitution is clear. Honestly, I'm glad that they have raised the issue of the Constitution and the provisions of such powers, you know, has enabled the Senate to so do. Section 88 is quite clear. I'm glad my friend in Lagos also read it. You know, and when you see a man who is fluent to communicate or fluent in communication begins to stammer, you know that something is wrong. You know, in this instance, I want to draw us back to Section 88 because I don't want to be involved in the political aspect of it. As a legal practitioner and a minister in the temple of justice, I stand on the path of the rule of law. And the basic ground norm for that is our Constitution. In Section 88 sub 1, just as they read, without repeating what they have said, I want to just go straight to Section 88 sub 1, 1b, the conduct of affairs of any person, authority, ministry, or government department charged or intended to be charged with the duty of or responsibility for one, executing or administering laws enacted by the National Assembly. We all know that the police force in Nigeria derive their power from the Constitution to administer and execute the Police Act, which is a creation of the National Assembly. So if there is anything that borders on that, Senate has the power to invite no other person less than the IGP himself, which is the representative of that institution. That's the chief executive officer of that institution. Number two, talking about the disbursing, administering monies appropriated. And that also talks about the resources with which the police is working. So if there's anything as pertaining to these issues, the National Assembly, both the Senate and House, they have the powers to invite the IGP. Also taking it down, sub 2, which they have also referred to. The powers conferred on the National Assembly under the provisions of this section are exercisable only for the purpose of enabling it to, one, make laws with respect to any matter within its legislative competence and correct any defects in existing laws, which calls for their oversight function. And this cannot be an exception. But basically, sub B says to expose corruption, inefficiency, or waste in the execution and administration of laws within its legislative competence. Now, ask yourself, what does it mean to expose corruption, and how do you expose corruption? The first thing is to hear from the other side. That's the rule of natural justice. If there's any allegation on any chief executive officer of any arm of government or any department or agency of government upon which the National Assembly has powers to appropriate funds for or to make laws for, I think they have the right to summon such a person for clarification. Again, to expose inefficiency. What is inefficiency? Inefficiency has to do with the way and manner with which a certain person or public office holder carries out his responsibility. So I don't see anything wrong in the invitation extended to the Inspector General of Police on the face of it. Also, when you talk about corruption, just like Mr. Yinko Dumakin mentioned, corruption also has to do with abuse of office. It's not only when you pay or receive bribe. It even extends to nepotism. It can be stretched. And you can't decipher these things except you hear from those whom have been given the responsibility, have been entrusted with such powers to so act on our behalf. And mind you again that the National Assembly is the custodian of the mandate of the Nigerian populace. They are the representatives of the people. So far as I'm concerned, and so far as our constitution is concerned, National Assembly represents our democracy. And any attack on them or any disobedience to them is disobedience to the Nigerian populace. But again, let me take us further to Section 89, which talks about the issue of the investigative powers. And that investigative powers talks about receiving subsidy of Section 89(1) is clear. It says summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence at any place or produce any document or other things in his possession or under his control. In this instance, I don't know who else that the Senate should invite apart from the Inspector General of Police. So I think that it's high time we begin to respect authorities and institutions, because these actors will leave tomorrow. What then do we leave behind? What legacy do we leave for the younger generation? So I think that the letters of the Constitution is clear. We should not be playing politics with our democracy. Please, that is what we have now, and that is what is still giving us the right to speak. That is what is giving us the right to still call ourselves a democratic government. And again, looking at the issues, because I've heard a lot of arguments on the issues or the purpose for which he's been invited. Yes, they have written their letter and they shortlisted two things. One, the way and manner Senator Dino Melaye was handled. Number two, the issue of the spate of killings in the country. Now, tell me which of them is not within the purview of the legislative powers of the National Assembly. Just as mentioned, and as we all know, this same thing happened when Senator Issa Misu raised issues. He was invited and he rushed to court. I'm glad that he has also delivered his judgment on that. So please, I think we should stop overheating the polity. If the IGP, who has a constitutional mandate to investigate matters, to arrest and all of that, invite someone and the person refuses to go, just as Senator Dino Melaye did, will they take it? They will not, because some of us will not even support such things, because it's an affront to constituted authorities. I think we need to balance these things. We are talking about checks and balances. The police belonging to the executive can be checked, and their powers balanced by our legislators, whether the House or the Senate. So when some of us come up to, pontificate and trying to interpret these things upside down, yes, granted, they have the powers, is their opinion, but let us be mindful so that we don't derail this democracy, so that we don't also, confuse the people who are relying on us for guidance and for advice. That's my take for now.
To what the Commissioner of Police, Legal Force Headquarters, Mr. David Igbode, stated. He actually said, and I quote, he said that the IGP acted in accordance with the law by delegating the DIG to represent him in an official capacity. He further said, official functions of the IGP can be performed by the DIG or the Assistant Inspectors General of Police. So why are they insisting that it must be the IGP to appear in person? Do you think, or would you say that it is legally right for an assistant to appear? I mean, the IGP is the person needed here, but he sent his assistants. Are you saying legally it is also wrong to send a representative?
Why do I say so? The Constitution has given the Senate power of choice of who to invite. And in this case, he is the head of the Nigerian police force. And even the Constitution talks about to the satisfaction of the Senate. So if Senate is not satisfied with him delegating that power, I think is wrong. Number two, Constitution did not make provision for any power of delegation. I listened to the CP Legal Force Headquarters, Mr. David Ibodo, and I actually sympathize with him because he did a very good job in defending his position. It's his duty, it's his function. I don't expect him to say anything else because it's a matter of command and control and there's hierarchy. If he has a mandate to speak in a particular manner, it doesn't matter how he feels about it, he must maintain it. So, and I commend him for that. Honestly, I do. But in this case, he was relying on the Police Act. Police Act is subject to the Constitution, and by virtue of section 1 sub 3 of our Constitution, you know that that section, if they want to elevate it to the point of his argument, it becomes inconsistent and can no longer be construed or seen as a good law. They cannot. The Senate has the right and the power to choose whosoever they want. It's not left for the police authorities Senate on who should appear. If they need him, then he should appear. It's as simple as that. They'll have a chat. I'm glad he also said that severally he's appeared. Yes, it's his responsibility to so appear. It's his mandate to so appear. That's my take. So it is wrong for them to delegate. And in this case, if the power is delegated to him, if we must stretch it by means of interpretation, a delegated power cannot be delegated, especially when it has to do with the same people that donated the power to you. So I will not support the affront on our National Assembly. I will not also support the affront on our police institution. That is the truth. And when you look at it, even by the functions of the Nigerian Police Force in Section 4 of the Police Act, it's talking about the maintenance of law and order. If you look at what happens between them and Senator Dino, it's also about maintenance of law and order, whichever way you look at it. Number two, talking about protection of lives and properties of Nigerians. The issue of killing has to do with protection of lives and also properties of Nigerians. So I think a 30-minute chat, highest 1-hour chat with the National Assembly would have solved this problem. That's the truth. And also, when he appears, he knows better that if there's anything that's against public policy or that is unconscionable, he can decide not to answer such with an understanding. And if, as I also heard, that one of the problems is that...
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Kasmir Igwe. Thank you for joining us on the show. All right, back to our Lagos studios. Now, Mr. Dumake,
yes.
Be things as they are, you know, do you think declaring the IGP an enemy of democracy, is that taking it too far? The lawmakers?
Well, for me, really, I think I've done a seminar thing on this matter that's coming out. And what I'm suggesting to the Senate clearly is that rather than, don't forget, the current IG of police was a commissioner of police in Kano in 2015. In about a year, he became IG and then catapulted to IG. Yes. About 30 officers, DIG, IG, have to be retired for him to become IG. And we don't know, there is no record in his career of that establishment performance. Beyond that, well, perhaps some people are saying, well, he was in Kano in 2015 to special elections and we knew what happened. But if what the National Assembly should do, I've read our constitution, section 215, that talk about appointment of police is a very bad provision. Because, and that's why some of us who said this constitution is not a constitution. This constitution was made by Abacha to succeed himself. They said the president shall appoint an IG in consultation with police council and can appoint any serving police officer. So a president can go and bring a DPO from his village, choose his brother, go and be IG police and tire out the other officers. But in Kenya, what do you do in Kenya? In Kenya, when there's a vacancy for IG, the Police Service Commission will call for applications.
Okay.
And among the senior officers, they will shortlist 3 officers sent to the president. The president will nominate one person to the Senate. If the Senate confirms, that person stand. If they reject, the president cannot go and bring somebody from his village or somebody he knows. He will go back to that list
And take someone
and take
else.
another person
Okay.
to the Senate.
Okay.
In such a situation, you have checks and balances. An IG is not beholden to one man. And I think in all the amendments that have done to our constitution in the last 16 years, it has now occurred to our Senates that you have to look at this section of the constitution. So a lot of things that are wrong with our system, they are about the way our laws and our structure and our institutions are made to function.
Yeah.
So I think Senate should not waste too much time about somebody who has been promoted maybe beyond his competence or maturity. They should now go in terms of legislation to ensure that we have an accounting leadership for the police force. In America, where we borrow the leadership system of government, the FBI director is not the Trump has no power to unilaterally appoint him. He has to nominate somebody to the Senate for confirmation. I think those are the areas we should be going because there's so much impunity in our system for people to think that they are beyond to the most powerful man in the system, who is the president, and therefore they can do anything and nothing will happen. And in any case, ultimately too, and I think also also canvass the parliamentary system government as against the presidential government, because the presidential system is too much subjected to abuses and authoritarianism, and that's what we're seeing in the system.
All right. Okay, Barrister Abbas, let me ask, as all right, as someone who knows so much about the law, are there punitive measures, as prescribed by the Constitution for such an act or such an attitude as displayed by the IGP?
The Senate, I think in section 89, has the power under section 89(1)(d) to issue a warrant to compel the attendance of any person who, after being summoned to attend, fails, refuses, or neglects to do so, and does not excuse such failure, refusal, or neglect to the satisfaction of the House. Subsection 2 says, a summon or warrant issued under this section may be served or executed by any member of the Nigerian police force or by any person authorized in that behalf by the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Reps, as the case may be. They can issue a warrant of arrest.
So who now enforce?
Those are some of the challenges inherent in the system. For me, as a student of history, I agree totally that we are running a distorted structure, federalism.
Okay.
It's a distorted one, and there's so much impunity. There's an interview I granted several years back on TVC when they were talking about those Akpo, no, not the Akpo, the Boko Haram suspects that the SSS, DSS has mistakenly killed in an uncompleted building. So we're talking about impunity, and I said, look, as a legal practitioner, I know very well there's so much impunity in most of our institutions. Most Nigerians are victims. The reason why some of us are even saying Melaye is a senator, fine and good, a member of the Holo, our Holo chambers of our district. But do you know how many millions of Nigerians are also victims of such impunity?
Sure.
Do you understand me? So the question is, we need to reform the entire system because we are not going anywhere. Analogically, I tell people, Nigeria is like an aircraft mid-air that is faulty. The common sense demands that when you have a fault mid-air, you land in the nearest airport to fix the fault in the aircraft before you take off again. But saying mid-air that the journey, the destination is sacrosanct, you are simply risking the life of everybody. And I used to tell people, I said, look, leading a nation is like flying an aircraft. If the journey is hitch-free, you will see the cabin very silent. People will be sleeping, some reading newspaper, some gisting in low tones. But anytime you hear commotion in the cabin of an aircraft, abnormal commotion, it's simply because the men in the cockpit are finding it difficult to stabilize that aircraft, or that the aircraft is refusing instruction. So the IPOB commotion in the cabin the OPC commission in the cabin, the Benue killing commission in the cabin is an indication that there's something wrong in the cockpit. Yeah. And except we disembark to fix the problem and take off on an assured and guaranteed hitch-free flight, Nigeria is in trouble.
That's correct.
You know,
That's the honest truth.
Yes.
All right, but the Commissioner of Police also said that they are going to challenge this in court. Do you think it's legally right to do that?
Well, you see, they are free to do whatever they like.
Okay.
This within their purview. But you see, why we must be worried? And it makes me that I was harsh on my friend. but it's for your interest too. Look at what happened on Friday. No, look at what happened on Friday. Because if you continue going this way, you lawyers at some point may become jobless. Look at what happened on Friday. Somebody went to court, wanted to get an injunction. Thugs invaded the court, started shooting guns. Everybody's capable for safety. And if you allow this kind of police to continue, it will get to a point that nobody will be having believe in the judicial system again. It's when you have judicial integrity of judicial is intact, when people rule law of law, that's when you lawyers have a profession. If God forbid, if I was trying to get into Liberia or work, who go to court? Nobody go to court anymore. So that's why it's important for us. And I think I must make a point too. Either for the police or against the police and for rule of law. If the police, I've invited, the matter is, the police were invited, we will go. In fact, I told the president of VCF, Kumasi, who was IGP of police under Abacha, when you go to the 2014 National Conference, and Boko Haram broke JSS jail, and Alhaji Kumasi got up on the floor of the conference and said, well, you can see some boys, they broke JSS cell because they are protesting their detention without trial. And I went to him and I said, sir, when you are IG of police, you are detaining many of us without trial. Did you break jail? How can I be defending breaking of jail? So we must preserve all our institutions. The police are part of someone say any citizens. You must go there and obey. But if you are the chief law enforcement officer and they are calling you and now starting, I will go to court, I will not. What are you sure? What are you sure? Because like my friend right now, there's a provision, yes, Senate can issue warrants of arrest. Who will arrest the IG? Exactly.
I mean, you pointed out something salient while you were talking earlier, Mr. Dumaki, talking about, how this IG came into power in the first place.
Yes.
I mean, we suggest to an extent that he might be untouchable. I mean, we have seen before in this country where a police chief was sort of disgraced out of office. We remember the case of Tafa Balogun and all of that. Why is this one, it's more like a slap in the face of every Nigerian. First of all, for a president to have even given an instruction
and say not comply
and then he didn't comply. I mean, that in itself should have even, let me listen to you, Barrister Bass.
You see, as a lawyer, sometimes you must put yourself in the shoe of a lawyer. I'm not saying, look, in every profession, you have quacks, unethical practitioners. You understand? In every profession, including journalism, you have unethical everywhere, including politicians, lawyers. But you see, in the practice of law, like I said, there is always an objective for every law. No nation makes law in vacuum. Every law is targeted to set for an objective. And you must always have that objective in mind in applying that law. There will be disagreement sometimes. There will definitely be a disagreement because people don't see things from the same perspective. And that's why the rule of law says once there is a disagreement, then you approach the court. I was on TV the other day, we were arguing what Omoagege said on the floor of the National Assembly, that he believes that the law reordering the election was targeted at the president. To me, I said, it's a personal opinion. You see, if that is not the reason why the National Assembly made the law, they should have just ignored it or stated their own side. For me, I make a statement on the floor of the Assembly, you suspend me. What you are doing is that you are not giving room for alternative opinion. If for any reason you believe that what I have said in one way defames your person or tarnishes your integrity as an institution, I believe the best thing they should have done was to have gone to the court of law.
Exactly. All right. I think that,
and that is
Senator Mwakeke's issue, something we'll wait to see. Because he said he will resume plenary this week anyway, so
even,
we'll see
like
how
I
that
said,
pans out.
if the purpose for which they are inviting him is as enshrined in the ground norm, they have the power. Okay. But if it is outside the purview, because it says within their legislative jurisdiction, competence, if it is within their, fine.
Okay.
They have the right.
Yeah, let's him go.
Yes.
And we see.
That's why I also said on one day, I said, look, when the police, thank you that you said it.
Yeah.
Most times, my clients are invited by EFCC. Once I get the invitation letter, I look for the IPO's number. I tell, sorry, we are not in town. We may not be able to come. Can we come on Wednesday? And we go there. We resolve the matter amicably.
Yes.
So even Melaye himself is a citizen invited by the police. In fact, I said he actually complicated the entire issue.
Because, I mean, he's a senator. There's no way he would have gone and he would have been detained or something.
He has the ability to go
so.
there with 100 senior advocates.
Yeah.
They have the power, they have the resources.
All right, let's look at how our viewers are reacting this morning. Peace says it is quite obvious that the IGP is acting based on the excess power arrogated to him by his employer, the president. The president himself being... oh, okay, I cannot continue this message. Please don't use strong words in composing your messages. All right, this one says, let Nigerians respect democracy. Senate has the right to summon the IGP. Good morning, Galaxy TV. I want to say that since the coming into power of this administration, they have shown an uncanny disregard for the rule of law. Remember Malami, the AGF, Magu, EFCC, and now the IGP, and juxtapose it with President Buhari's consistent disregard of court judgments. All in all, you won't look far to know where they got their act of impunity from. God bless Nigeria. That's coming from Mr. Ukeje Dick from Lume in Togo. Wow. This other one by Matthew Christian from Ikeja here in Lagos says, please let us obey our constitutions as it has been stipulated and the punitive measures. All right, there's so many messages. Magnus Aneke from Enugu says, I want to thank Barrister Kasmil Igwe for throwing more light on this issue. At least we can now balance it with the interpretation given by Barrister Abbas. I think the IGP has not done well. Okay, I'm about to read Latin now. Audi otaram patem is the principle of fair hearing in law. Nemo judex in causa sua. Yes, you cannot be a judge in your own case. Is the IGP higher than the law? Whatever the case may be, if you do the right thing, no need of hiding. His refusal to respond to the Senate invitation is inimical to democracy.